Ambassador Velith had served the Sarati Collective for 200 years. She had negotiated peace treaties between warring empires. She had witnessed the fall of ancient civilizations and the rise of new ones. She had seen things that would break lesser minds. So when the Galactic Council assigned her to observe the humans of Earth, she felt insulted. The humans were nothing special. Everyone in the galaxy knew this. They were a young species, barely 3 centuries into space travel. They had no natural weapons, no armor plates, no venomous fangs. They could not breathe in vacuum or survive extreme temperatures. They needed to sleep for 8 hours every day, and they died if they went without water for 3 days. By every measure that mattered, they were one of the weakest species in known space. But the Council had received reports. Strange reports. Stories of human ships appearing in battles they had no business joining. Tales of human soldiers fighting against impossible odds and somehow surviving. Rumors of something the other species called the human madness. The Council wanted answers. They sent Velith to find them. Her transport docked with the United Earth Fleet carrier Taibong on a cold Tuesday morning. The ship was large by human standards, but small compared to Sarati vessels. Velith noted the simple metal construction, the basic shield generators, the weapons that seemed almost primitive. She recorded her first observation. The humans clearly lacked advanced technology. A young woman met her at the airlock. She wore a crisp blue uniform and stood with perfect posture. Her dark hair was pulled back tight, and her eyes were sharp and watchful. Ambassador Velith, welcome aboard. I am Lieutenant Yuna. I will be your liaison during your stay. Velith studied the human female. She was small, barely reaching Velith's shoulder. Her bones looked fragile. Her skin was soft and easily damaged. There was nothing impressive about her at all. Thank you, Lieutenant. I hope this assignment will be brief. If Yuna noticed the dismissal in those words, she did not show it. She simply smiled and led Velith through the ship's corridors. The Taibong was busy with activity. Humans moved everywhere, carrying equipment, checking systems, talking in small groups. Velith observed them carefully. They seemed happy, even cheerful. Several of them laughed at jokes she could not understand. One group was singing together as they worked on a broken pipe. This confused her. In her experience, military vessels were places of discipline and silence. Soldiers did not laugh. They did not sing. They followed orders and prepared for death. These humans acted like they were on vacation. Lieutenant Yuna brought her to the bridge, where she met Captain Dohwan. He was an older human male with gray in his hair and lines around his eyes. When he shook her hand, his grip was firm but gentle. Ambassador, we are honored by your presence. The crew has been instructed to give you full access. You may go anywhere. Ask anything. We have nothing to hide. Velith found this strange. Most species guarded their military secrets carefully. The humans seemed almost eager to show her everything. I appreciate your openness, Captain. I am here to observe your combat capabilities. The Council wishes to understand Earth's military strength. Captain Dowan smiled at this. It was a strange smile, one that Velith could not read. Then I hope we do not disappoint you, Ambassador. We are scheduled for a routine border patrol. Nothing exciting, I am afraid. But you are welcome to watch. The first 3 hours were exactly as boring as Velith expected. The Taibong moved through empty space, scanning for threats that did not exist. The crew performed their duties with quiet efficiency. Velith began composing her report in her mind. She would tell the Council that the humans were organized but unremarkable. There was nothing to fear from such a simple species. Then the distress. Signal arrived. It came from a colony ship called the Bright Morning. 4,000 civilians, mostly families with children, traveling to a new settlement. They had been attacked by Krevith raiders. The Crevith were known throughout the galaxy as brutal pirates. They killed for pleasure. They took no prisoners. They left no survivors. Velith watched the bridge crew receive the message. She expected discussion. She expected calculation. She expected them to weigh the risks and decide that rescue was impossible. The Crevith force was large. The Tumbang was alone. Simple mathematics said that going to help would be suicide, but there was no discussion. There was no calculation. Captain Dowan simply turned to his crew and spoke one word. Go. The ship jumped to high speed. Alarms began to sound. Soldiers ran to their stations. Pilots sprinted toward the fighter bay. The entire vessel transformed from a peaceful workplace into a weapon of war in less than 2 minutes. Velith grabbed Lieutenant Yuna's arm. This is madness. The Crevith outnumber you 3-1. Their ships are larger and better armed. You cannot win this battle. Yuna looked at her with calm eyes. There was no fear in her face. There was something else, something Velith did not recognize. Ambassador, we don't fight battles we can win. We fight battles that need fighting, but you will die. Maybe. Probably some of us will. But there are 4,000 people on that ship. Children, Ambassador, families. They are screaming for help right now. And we are the only ones who can hear them. Yuna gently removed Velith's hand from her arm. In the Sarati Collective, what do you do when someone cries for help? Velith did not answer. In the Sarati Collective, they calculated. They weighed costs and benefits. They made rational decisions based on survival. We answer, Yuna said softly. Every time. No matter the cost. That is what it means to be human. She walked away to her station, leaving Velith standing alone in the middle of the chaos. All around her, humans prepared for a battle they could not win. And not one of them seemed afraid. For the first time in 200 years, Velith felt something she had almost forgotten. She felt confused, and deep beneath the confusion, in a place she did not want to examine, she felt the first small seed of something that might become fear. The tactical display showed everything clearly. Red dots for enemy ships, blue dots for friendly forces. The red outnumbered the blue by a wide margin. Any child could look at that display and know what it meant. This battle was already lost. Velith stood at the back of the bridge and watched the humans prepare for death. They did not act like people about to die. They checked their equipment. They confirmed their positions. They spoke to each other in quick, calm voices. Some of them were even smiling. The fighter bay was the strangest place of all. Velith had followed Lieutenant Yuna there to observe the pilots. These were the humans who would fly small ships directly into enemy fire. These were the ones most likely to die. And yet they acted like children at a celebration. A young man named Junho was adjusting his helmet while talking to a woman called Soman. They were both barely adults by human standards, perhaps 22 years old. Their whole lives were ahead of them, or would have been if they were not about to throw those lives away. You still owe me 50 credits from the card game, Soman was saying. Junho laughed. If I die, you can take it from my locker. If you die, I'm going to be very angry with you. Then I will try to stay alive. I do not want you angry with me. They bumped their fists together, a human gesture of friendship. Then Junho climbed into his fighter, still smiling. Someone watched him go, and Velith saw something flicker across her face. It was there for only a moment, then it was gone. She climbed into her own ship. Another pilot, a woman named Tehi, sat in her cockpit holding a small photograph. Velith could not see what was in the picture, but she could see how Tehi looked at it. With love, with longing, with the knowledge that she might never see the real thing again. Tehi kissed the photograph, tucked it into her suit, and began her launch sequence. The squadron leader was a man called Hyunwoo. He was older than the others, perhaps 35. He had gray starting at his temples and scars on his hands. He stood before his pilots and spoke only 4 words. "Come home. All of you." It was not an order. It was a prayer. The fighters launched into the void. 12 small ships against 40 enemy vessels. The mathematics were simple and brutal. Most of these pilots would not return. Velith returned to the bridge and watched the battle begin on the tactical display. The Krevith attacked in waves, trying to overwhelm the human fighters with numbers. But the humans did not fight like other species. They did not try to survive. They tried to protect. Every move they made was designed to keep the enemy away from the colony ship. They threw themselves into danger again and again, blocking shots meant for civilians. Junho was the first to fall. A Krevith cruiser targeted the colony ship's engine section. A direct hit there would cripple the vessel and doom everyone aboard. Junho saw the attack coming. He had 2 choices: dodge and live, or intercept and die. He did not hesitate. His fighter flew directly into the path of the plasma burst. The impact tore his ship apart in a flash of light and fire. He was dead before he could feel pain. But in his final moment, as his ship broke around him, he transmitted one last message. Not a goodbye, not a prayer, just coordinates, enemy positions, weak points he had spotted in the Krevith formation. Information that might help his friend survive. He died sending help. On the bridge of the Taibong, Velith heard Summon's voice come through the communication system. The young woman was crying. Her words were broken by sobs. "I have his coordinates." Moving to attack position. "Summon, your emotional state," another officer began. "I am fine." Her voice hardened through the tears. "I am going to kill them." For Junho, for everyone. She was not fine. Anyone could hear that. She was broken inside, shattered by the loss of her friend. But she kept flying. She kept fighting. The tears did not stop, but neither did she. Velith had seen many battles in her long life. She had seen soldiers fight for glory, for duty, for survival. She had never seen anyone fight while crying. She had never seen grief and violence mixed together so completely. Why does she continue? Velith asked Lieutenant Yuna. She is clearly unable to perform. She should withdraw. Yuna looked at her with something like pity. Ambassador, she is unable to stop. That is not the same thing. Junho was her friend. He died protecting strangers. If she stops now, his death means nothing. She will fly until she joins him or until every enemy is destroyed. There is no other option for her. That is not rational. No, it is human. On the display, Summon's fighter dove into the Krevith formation. She used Junho's coordinates perfectly, striking at weak points, destroying enemy ships with precise fury. She was still crying. Her aim was still perfect. Velith watched and tried to understand. She could not. The mathematics of this battle made no sense. The humans should be losing. They were outnumbered, outgunned, outmatched in every way. But they were not losing. They were dying, yes. But they were not losing. And slowly, impossibly, the tide began to turn. The battle had lasted 2 hours. 2 hours of fire and death and screaming. 2 hours of watching the impossible happen. Velith's hands were shaking. She had stopped trying to hide it. Everyone on the bridge was too busy to notice anyway. They were all focused on the fight, on survival, on winning a battle that should have been lost before it began. The turning point came when Yunwoo made his choice. His fighter was damaged. One engine was dead. His weapons were almost empty. By any reasonable standard, he should have retreated to the Taibong for repairs. He should have lived to fight another day, but the Krevith command ship still had shields. As long as those shields held, the enemy could coordinate their attack. As long as the command ship survived, the colony vessel remained in danger. Someone had to bring those shields down. Haiyan Wu did not ask permission. He did not say goodbye. He simply aimed his broken fighter at the command ship's shield generator and pushed his remaining engine to maximum power. "Squadron, this is lead. I am going in. Make it count." Someone's voice came through immediately. "Haiyan Wu, no. There has to be another way." "There is not. You know there is not. Take care of the kids, Soman. Tell them I was brave." He cut his communication line. His fighter accelerated toward the enemy ship, trailing smoke and fire. The Creveth tried to shoot him down, but he was too fast, too close. He slipped through their defensive fire like water through fingers. The impact was beautiful and terrible. His fighter struck the shield generator at full speed. The explosion lit up the void, a brief star born from one man's sacrifice. When the light faded, the command ship's shields were gone. On the bridge of the Taibang, Captain Doan spoke one word. "Now." The human carrier surged forward. Its weapons opened fire, all of them at once. Velith had studied these weapons in her research. She had considered them primitive, barely worth noting. Now she saw them in action, and she understood why the Council had sent her. The humans had weapons that other species would never build. Not because they could not, but because they would not. These weapons were dangerous to the user. They required soldiers to stand in places where radiation would kill them slowly. They required gunners to manually hold circuits closed, knowing the electricity could stop their hearts. They were weapons designed by a species that did not value its own survival above all else. They were weapons of spite. One gun crew was led by a woman named Jisoo. She was young, perhaps 25, with burns on her arms from a previous battle. Her weapon had a coolant leak. Every shot released toxic gas into her compartment. She kept firing anyway. "Respirator check," her second called out. "Failed 10 minutes ago," Jisoo replied. "Keep shooting. You will die. Everyone dies. These people will not die today. Not while I can pull this trigger." She coughed blood onto her console and kept firing. Captain Doan was injured. Shrapnel from a near miss had torn through the bridge, and a piece of metal was buried in his left leg. Blood pooled around his boot, spreading across the deck plates. He did not sit down. He did not ask for medical help. He stood at his post and commanded his ship as if nothing had happened. "Damage report," he said. His voice was calm. Only his pale face showed the pain he was hiding. 30% hull breach. 47 casualties so far. Fighter squadron at half strength. Main power fluctuating. And the colony ship? Intact, sir. No major damage. Then we are winning. Velith stared at him. The mathematics were right in front of them. Nearly 50 of his people were dead or dying. His ship was falling apart. Half his fighters were gone. How could he call this winning? But she was beginning to understand. The humans did not count victory the way other species did. They did not measure success by their own survival. They measured it by something else entirely. The Creveth were retreating at first. Velith did not believe what she was seeing. The Creveth never retreated. They were predators, killers, monsters who showed no mercy. They had never fled from a smaller force. Never in recorded history, but they were fleeing now. Their remaining ships turned and ran, leaving their dead behind. They did not even try to recover their wounded. They simply went, as fast as their engines could carry them, putting as much distance as possible between themselves and the humans. "They are running," Bella said. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears. "They are actually running." Lieutenant Yuna stood beside her, watching the enemy flee. Her face was tired but satisfied. "They learned," Yuna said simply. "Learned what?" "That we do not stop." That no matter how many of us you kill, the rest will keep coming. That we will spend our last breath trying to hurt you, and our dying thought will be hoping our friends finish what we started. Yuna turned to look at Velith directly. Other species fight to survive. We fight to win. There is a difference. On the communication system, someone's voice came through. She was still crying, but there was something else in her voice now. Something hard and bright and fierce. Enemy forces in full retreat. Colony ship secure. We did it. Junho, we did it. She was talking to a dead man. And somehow, Vela thought he might be listening. The battle was over, but the work was not. Rescue operations began immediately. Shuttles flew between the Taibong and the colony ship, carrying medical supplies, engineers, and hope. Velith stood in a corner of the bridge and watched the humans work. They had been fighting for hours. They had lost friends. They were injured, exhausted, broken in ways that might never heal. And yet they kept moving. They kept helping. They refused to rest while others still needed them. Lieutenant Yuna had been coordinating rescue efforts for 6 hours straight. Her hands trembled from the stimulant injections she had taken to stay awake. Her eyes were red and unfocused. Twice, Velith saw her stumble and catch herself on a console. "You should rest," Velith told her. "You are going to collapse. Later." Yuna did not even look up from her work. There are still people trapped in the lower decks of the colony ship. We need to get them out before the hull integrity fails. Other officers can handle this. You are not essential. Yuna finally looked at her. For a moment, Vela saw something raw in her eyes. Pain, fear, a desperate need that she was trying to hide. "My brother is on that ship." Velith blinked. "Your brother?" "Minho. He's 12 years old. He was traveling to the colony with our parents." Yuna's voice cracked, just slightly. "I have not heard from him since the attack began. I do not know if he is alive. Why did you not say something?" "You could have..." "What?" "Left my post? Abandoned my duty?" Yuna shook her head. "I am a soldier. The needs of 4,000 come before the needs of one. Even if that one is my little brother." She turned back to her console and kept working. Her hands were shaking worse than before, but her voice was steady when she spoke into the communication system. "Rescue Team 7, report. Have you reached Deck 14 yet?" Velith stepped back and watched in silence. She tried to imagine what Yuna was feeling. To know that someone you loved might be dying, and to keep working anyway. To put strangers first, always, no matter the cost to yourself. She could not imagine it. Her species did not work that way. No species she knew worked that way, only humans. The surviving pilots returned to the carrier one by one. Soman was the last to land. When her fighter touched down in the bay, she did not climb out immediately. She sat in her cockpit for a long moment, staring at nothing. Tihi went to her. She opened Sumon's canopy and reached inside, gently touching her shoulder. "He would be proud of you." Sumon's face crumpled. All the strength she had shown during the battle dissolved in an instant. She began to sob, great heaving cries that shook her whole body. "He should be here. He should be here, and he is not, and I could not save him. You saved 4,000 people. I wanted to save him." Tahi pulled her from the cockpit and held her as she cried. Other pilots gathered around them, forming a circle. They did not speak. They did not need to. They simply stood together in their grief, sharing a pain that no words could express. Velith watched from a distance. She had seen death before, many times. She had seen mourning rituals across 100 worlds. But she had never seen anything like this. The humans did not hide their pain. They did not pretend to be strong. They wept openly, without shame, and they held each other through the darkness. It should have looked weak. Instead, it looked like something else entirely. It looked like strength. Hours later, Velith found Captain Dowan in the medical bay. He was finally sitting down, allowing a doctor to treat the wound in his leg. The shrapnel had been removed, but the damage was severe. He would limp for the rest of his life. "Ambassador," he said when he saw her, "I hope the battle was educational. It was unexpected." Velith sat down across from him. The doctor finished bandaging his leg and left them alone. "I have questions. Ask. How do you do this? How do you send your people to die?" Dohan was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. "I do not send them. I hold them back. Every human on this ship volunteered for service. Most of them begged for the chance. They wanted to be here, Ambassador. They wanted to fight. But why? Why would anyone choose this? The pain, the fear, the death? Because we fear something worse." Dohan met her eyes directly. "We fear a universe where the helpless have no defenders. We fear a galaxy where the strong prey on the weak and no one stands against them. We fear looking in the mirror and seeing someone who could have helped but chose not to." He gestured toward the window, toward the stars beyond. "Those are our nightmares, Ambassador. Not death, not pain, failure, cowardice. The knowledge that we could have made a difference and did not." Velith thought about the Sarati. Her people lived for centuries. They calculated every action for maximum benefit. They never risked themselves for strangers. They survived because they were careful, rational, and cold. And suddenly, for the first time, she wondered if they were missing something important. "There is a word in your language," she said slowly. "I have heard it but never understood it. The word is hero." Dowan smiled. It was a tired smile, full of pain and loss. "A hero is not someone without fear, Ambassador. A hero is someone who acts despite the fear. Someone who looks at danger and says, 'Not today,' and means it." He leaned back and closed his eyes. "Today, my crew were heroes. Tomorrow, some of them will cry in their bunks and question everything. They will feel the weight of what they did and what it cost. And then, the next time someone screams for help, they will do it all again. Why? Because that is who we choose to be." Velith returned to the Sarati homeworld 3 weeks later. Her transport docked at the orbital station, and she took a shuttle down to the capital city. The Galactic Council was waiting for her report. 3 weeks. That was how long she had spent on the Taibang after the battle. She had watched the humans mourn their dead. She had seen Lieutenant Yuna reunite with her brother Minho, who had survived by hiding in an air duct for 6 hours. She had attended the funeral ceremony for the fallen pilots, where Soman had spoken about Junho with tears in her eyes and love in her voice. She had learned things that no amount of research could have taught her. The council chamber was vast and cold, filled with representatives from 100 species. They sat in their assigned places, watching Velith with curious eyes. She was expected to deliver a tactical assessment, a simple report on human military capabilities. She gave them something else entirely. "Honored Council," she began, "I have completed my observation of Earth's military forces. I am here to deliver my findings." The Council murmured in anticipation. They expected numbers, statistics, weapon specifications, and shield frequencies. "Do not provoke the humans." Silence fell across the chamber. 100 faces stared at her in confusion. "I am sorry," said the Crix delegate. "Did you say do not provoke them? The humans? The species with no natural weapons?" "Correct." "The species that needs to sleep for a third of their lives?" "Yes." "The species that dies from a simple fall or a small wound?" "The same." The delegate laughed. Others joined in. Velith waited for the laughter to fade. "Let me tell you what I saw," she said. "I saw a pilot die transmitting enemy coordinates. His ship was breaking apart around him, and his last thought was to help his friends. I saw his wingmate use those coordinates while weeping. She was broken with grief, but she kept fighting. She killed 11 enemy ships in his name. The laughter had stopped. I saw a captain stand in a pool of his own blood and ask only if the civilians were safe. I saw a gunner breathe poison gas because her weapon was needed. I saw a woman work herself to collapse while her brother was missing, because the needs of strangers came first. Velith stepped forward, her voice rising. I saw a squadron leader ram his damaged fighter into an enemy ship because it was the only way to bring down their shields. He did not hesitate. He did not ask if there was another way. He simply saw what needed to be done and did it. The council was silent now. Even the translators had stopped their quiet murmuring. The humans are not the strongest species in the galaxy. They are not the fastest or smartest. They do not have natural armor or psychic powers or centuries of experience. What they have is worse. They have the ability to look at impossible odds and feel only determination. They will hold a line until they die, and their children will hold it after them. She paused, letting her words sink in. They do not calculate acceptable losses. They do not weigh costs and benefits. They simply decide that something matters, and then they pay whatever price is necessary to protect it. I have never seen anything like it. In 200 years of service, I have never seen any species fight the way humans fight. The Crix delegate spoke again, his voice uncertain now. But surely their emotions make them weak. Their attachments, their grief, their emotions make them terrifying. Velith cut in. A rational species can be predicted. You can model their behavior. You can calculate how much damage they will accept before they retreat. Humans do not work that way. Their love makes them irrational. Their grief makes them vengeful. Their hope makes them refuse to surrender when any sensible creature would have given up. She thought of Silman, crying and killing at the same time. She thought of Yuna, working through exhaustion because her duty came before her fear. I watched them grieve their dead with open tears. I thought it was weakness. Then I watched them turn that grief into fury and destroy their enemies. Their pain does not break them. It fuels them. Every loss makes them more determined. Every death strengthens their resolve. The council chamber was completely silent. So I say again, do not provoke the humans. Do not threaten what they protect. Do not mistake their kindness for weakness. They are kind because they choose to be, not because they must be. If you make them choose violence instead, you will not survive the experience. She took a deep breath. They are not to be feared because they are monsters. They are to be feared because they are not. They are small, fragile creatures who have decided that the universe should be better than it is. And they will break themselves against reality until it agrees with them. Vela stepped back from the podium. That is my report. Classify it however you wish. But remember what I have told you. The Earthborn are the most dangerous species in the galaxy, not because of what they are, but because of what they choose to be. The council voted to classify her report at the highest level. Only senior officials would have access. The humans would never know what she had said about them, but across the galaxy, in quiet rooms and secret meetings, species began to whisper. The Krevith had fled from a smaller force. The humans had won an impossible battle. Something was different about the Earthborn. Something that the mathematics could not explain. The fear spread slowly, like ripples in still water. It was not the fear of strength or technology. It was a deeper fear. The fear of something they could not understand. The fear of a species that would rather die than abandon. A stranger. The fear of Hope. And in her private quarters, writing her final notes, Velith added one last observation. It was not part of the official report. It was just for herself. A reminder of what she had learned among the humans. They are good, she wrote. truly good. And that is the most frightening thing of all. She looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Taibang was still flying. Lieutenant Yuna was still serving. Soman was still mourning and still fighting. Captain Dowan was still standing watch, and the galaxy was slowly learning to fear the species that chose to be heroes, not because they had to, because they wanted to.